My name is Michelle, and I am a 26-year-old who has always felt unwanted and marginalized within the dynamics of my family. In a stark and painful contrast, my younger sister Christina, who is 4 years my junior, has perpetually been the focal point of our family's attention and affection. Our parents have consistently adored and spoiled her, always endorsing her actions and decisions, no matter the circumstance. Whenever Christina encountered even the smallest of obstacles, our parents were quick to come to her aid, offering her support and solutions. Meanwhile, my own efforts and achievements were frequently ignored and undervalued by everyone around me. One seemingly ordinary day, our parents were busy preparing for an outing to a nearby park. My mother was preoccupied with packing various items into a bag, while my father frantically searched for his car keys. Amidst this flurry of activity, Christina, as was typical for her, was bubbling with excitement and impatience, eagerly urging them to hurry up. Feeling a surge of longing to be included, I approached my mother and tentatively expressed my desire to join them, saying, "I want to come along too." However, she merely glanced at me briefly with a cold expression and dismissively responded, "Michelle, you should stay home and do your homework." Her words constricted my heart like a vice. My father remained silent, offering no words of support, and Christina cheerily exited the house, cheerfully calling out, "See you later." I was left behind, relegated to the solitude of the living room, sitting on the sofa and blankly staring out the window. The silence in the house was oppressive, marked only by the incessant ticking of the clock. My parents neglected me, only insisting that I do my homework, and I was constantly excluded from family events. Throughout my childhood, Christina often approached me with a sense of innocent enthusiasm, asking if we could play together. Whenever I was engaged in an activity, she would eagerly want to join in, chirping, "Me too," and it felt entirely natural for her to be at my side. However, as she grew older, she began to realize the special treatment she received from our parents. They showered her with affection and praise for even the most trivial accomplishments, while they exhibited a cold indifference towards me, showing no interest in my endeavors or feelings. This disparity in treatment became increasingly evident to Christina, and over time, she developed a noticeable sense of superiority over me. Her once innocent demeanor gradually morphed into one of condescension. She began to dismiss my conversations casually and would laugh at my failures. While she maintained the facade of a perfect, obedient child in front of our parents, her attitude towards me grew colder. I felt an escalating sense of isolation within the family, a feeling that I was an outsider in my own home. After graduating from high school, I took a job as a waitress in a local restaurant. Initially filled with anxiety, I gradually began to find my rhythm and started to derive some enjoyment from my work. Unfortunately, my family failed to recognize this job as a valid or respectable career. My mother often made disparaging remarks, belittling my occupation by asking, "Is this the only job you can do?" She seldom showed any interest in the stories I shared about my work life. Similarly, Christina would offer only superficial support, remarking, "Being a waitress is a respectable job," yet her words lacked any genuine interest or warmth. At family gatherings, I often felt invisible as both my parents and Christina seemed to ignore my presence, a recurring pain that deeply hurt me, yet I continued to yearn for their recognition and love. When I was 20 years old, I met Arthur through a mutual friend. He initially appeared shy and serious, but as we began to talk more, I was drawn to his profound kindness and empathy. We quickly formed a close bond, and after several outings together, our friendship blossomed into a romantic relationship. Spending time with Arthur became the highlight of my days, and we eventually decided to move in together. My life began to revolve around our shared moments, each day feeling special because of his presence. He was not only a source of comfort at home, but also an adventurous companion with whom I shared my outdoor pursuits. As I embarked on this new chapter with Arthur, I found myself distancing from my parents and Christina. Engrossed in my work and life with Arthur, my interactions with my family decreased significantly. The time I spent with Arthur provided a comforting escape from the unresolved traumas and emotional neglect I had experienced at home. One day, after a long period of absence, I made the decision to attend a family gathering, which stirred up a complex mix of emotions that I had suppressed for years. I engaged in light conversations with relatives I hadn't seen in a while, yet I noticed that my parents and Christina still treated me as though I were invisible. Unexpectedly, Christina loudly announced to everyone at the gathering, "I'm getting married." I was taken aback as this news was disclosed to me at the same time as it was to the other relatives, with no prior indication from her or my parents. This revelation overwhelmed me with a mixture of emotions, and I felt a distinct chill in the manner in which this news was shared within the family. Speechless, I could only silently accept the atmosphere of the moment as discussions quickly shifted to focus entirely on Christina's upcoming wedding, further marginalizing my presence. I experienced an indescribable sense of loneliness and sadness, which gradually deepened. Despite maintaining a smile for the sake of appearances, I felt a profound sense of alienation from my family. As preparations for the wedding began in earnest, my feelings of exclusion only intensified. Since I had moved out of the family home, I was not kept informed about the details of Christina's wedding plans. In an attempt to be involved, I sent her a message saying, "If there's anything I can help with, just let me know," only to receive a curt and dismissive reply. "It's okay." Her indifference towards me made me feel even more insignificant and deepened my sense of alienation from the family. A few days later, I received an unexpected call from Christina. "Michelle, can I ask you about the wedding dress?" Surprised and willing to assist with anything related to her wedding, I eagerly awaited her instructions. However, her next words left me utterly speechless. "But you're not invited to the ceremony." The stark reality that I wasn't even invited to my own sister's wedding weighed heavily on my heart. Desperate for an explanation, I managed to ask why. I couldn't comprehend why I had been excluded. Christina paused for a moment, then sighed deeply and responded, "Because I simply do not want my soon-to-be husband Wesley and his parents to become aware that your occupation is that of a waitress." As soon as those words pierced the air, an intense pain tore through my heart, feeling as if it were being ripped apart. To exclude me for such a superficial reason. My voice trembled with a mixture of disbelief and hurt, but Christina responded with a chilling indifference. "That's just the way it is. If you truly cared about my happiness, you would understand, wouldn't you?" I stood there, utterly stunned. It was clear that Christina failed to comprehend the profound depth of pain her words inflicted upon me. She seemed oblivious to how deeply wounded I was, a hurt that extended far beyond what she could possibly imagine. "Have you ever even considered my feelings? Please think about me as well." At this, Christina's voice grew louder. I was momentarily taken aback and involuntarily swallowed my next words, fully aware of how significantly she prioritized her own status above all else. "Fine, I'll email you the details about the dress," she remarked dismissively before unilaterally ending the call. At that moment, a constricting tightness enveloped my chest. A tumultuous blend of anger and sadness churned within me, leaving me grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. I had never envisioned that not being invited to my sister's wedding could inflict such profound pain. I resolved to compose myself and discuss this matter with our parents. Upon calling them, my father dismissed my concerns with a chuckle, suggesting, "That must be some kind of joke," while my mother mocked me with disbelief. Christina would never say such a thing. These words nearly shattered my heart. They didn't believe a single word I said. This interaction only served to reaffirm the extent of my alienation within my own family, and a profound sense of disappointment washed over me. Unable to endure the cold treatment from my family any longer, I returned to the sanctuary of my home, where Arthur was seated on the sofa. He could instantly tell something was amiss and quietly inquired, "What happened?" I chose not to force a smile and instead opened up about everything: the wedding, the disheartening conversation with our parents, and the deep-seated feelings of alienation I had endured. As I concluded my recount, tears were threatening to spill. Arthur listened intently in silence. After a reflective pause, he sighed deeply and began to disclose something unexpected. "Actually, there's something I need to tell you. I've been secretly working as Christina's wedding planner." His revelation left me wide-eyed, a complex mixture of surprise and suspicion rendering me momentarily speechless. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I managed to stammer out. Arthur's expression twisted slightly in discomfort. "I knew you had distanced yourself from your parents and Christina, and considering that, I opted to remain silent. I was aware of how this situation could affect you." His words elicited mixed feelings in me. Although I appreciated that Arthur was being considerate of my emotions, a part of me wished he had clued me in sooner about how isolated I had become within my family. "But Christina asked about the dress, didn't she?" Arthur moved to sit beside me, gently draping an arm around my shoulders. "Yes, but I believe the fact that she asked you about the dress indicates that she relies on you in some capacity." His soothing words quietly resonated with me. I looked up at him, pondering his perspective. Perhaps Christina might reconsider and decide to invite you to the wedding. After all, if she genuinely disliked you, she wouldn't have requested your help with the dress, right? Arthur offered a gentle smile, his words slightly warming the chill I felt inside, yet I remained conflicted internally. I honestly wasn't sure if Christina would actually extend an invitation to me for the wedding. Arthur stayed close by, providing comfort as I continued to grapple with my tangled emotions. Meanwhile, I proceeded with the preparations for Christina's wedding dress amidst a backdrop of complex feelings. Each time I thought about the wedding, a crushing sense of exclusion overwhelmed me, but I remained focused on perfecting the dress. Despite the pain stemming from not being invited, I resolved to do my utmost for her. It was the only action I felt capable of taking. Yet, deep down, I nurtured a faint hope that she might eventually invite me. I meticulously followed Christina's detailed instructions, paying close attention to every aspect of the fabric and design to ensure the dress was flawless. However, no invitation to the wedding ever materialized. Then came the day of the rehearsal dinner. The venue was adorned beautifully, and relatives and friends gathered, enveloped in a festive atmosphere. During this event, Wesley, Christina's fiancé, appeared visibly puzzled by my absence. We had been acquaintances since our college days, although not intimately close. We had always maintained a comfortable rapport. This likely fueled his concern over my absence. During a break in the dinner, he approached Christina with a question. "Hey, why isn't Michelle here at the rehearsal dinner?" "She's family too, isn't she?" Christina hesitated briefly before responding with a forced smile. "Well, she seems to be busy with work. I don't think it's something to worry about." Wesley's expression clouded with a slight frown as he persisted. "But isn't it strange that your sister isn't participating?" Those words must have been unexpected for Christina. After pondering for a moment, Christina spoke. "Well, maybe. But you're certainly attending the wedding, right? Let's focus on enjoying this rehearsal dinner for now." Wesley, though still somewhat puzzled by the exchange, chose to take Christina's words at face value and accept her reassurance. Following the conclusion of the dinner, much to my surprise, I received an unexpected call from my sister. "Why did you snitch to Wesley?" Christina's voice, quivering with anger and accusation, filled my ears. "What snitching are you referring to?" I responded, genuinely confused and bewildered by her sudden hostility. "Michelle, you must have told Wesley to ask me to invite you to the wedding, didn't you?" Christina's accusation was sharp and piercing, echoing with a tone of betrayal through the phone. "No, I didn't say anything like that." "Don't lie to me." "Then why else would Wesley say such a thing? You must have manipulated him to secure an invitation to the wedding." Christina's harsh words struck me deeply, inflicting significant emotional pain. "I really didn't say anything, Christina." I choked out, struggling to defend myself amidst her unfounded accusations. "Stop interfering with my wedding. It's none of your business." Saying that, Christina hung up the phone. Several hours later, my phone rang again, this time displaying the names of our parents. As I answered, I was immediately met with my mother's icy voice, her words dripping with disappointment. "Michelle, what are you thinking? Interfering in your sister's wedding, what could possibly be your motive?" Her accusation shocked me. I didn't ask for anything. Wesley was merely curious, I tried to explain, but my father's stern and disapproving voice soon followed, adding to the barrage of criticisms. "Do you realize the extent of the trouble you've caused Christina with your actions?" he demanded, his tone cold and accusatory. At that moment, a surge of intense anger and frustration welled up inside me, compounded by the injustice of being misunderstood and unfairly blamed. I don't want to say anything anymore. It's clear no one believes me anyway, I concluded, feeling utterly defeated and helpless, and ended the call, tears threatening to spill over. Crushed by the harsh words of my family, I was overwhelmed by a profound sense of frustration, yet I was not ready to leave the situation unresolved. Driven by a mix of anger and determination, I picked up the phone and called Arthur. "Arthur, please, go ahead and cancel the rental of Christina's wedding dress." There was a brief pause on the line as Arthur processed my request, but he eventually responded with understanding and support. "Okay, I understand how you feel. I'll support your decision." From what Arthur later told me, Christina was visibly distraught, unable to grasp the unfolding events. On the day of the wedding dress did not arrive as planned. It is said that the guests were abuzz at the venue. Amid the mishap of the missing wedding dress, the ceremony apparently came to an end. In the aftermath of the ceremony, unable to contain her frustration and anger, she confronted Arthur, demanding, "Why did this happen? What were you doing as the planner? You've ruined my most important day." Following these tumultuous events, Christina departed on her honeymoon with Wesley. Unexpectedly, during their honeymoon, I received a call from Wesley. His voice carried a tone of confusion and concern. "Michelle, I need to ask you something. I tried discussing why you weren't at the wedding with Christina, but she's been evasive." He continued, his words tinged with confusion and suspicion. "Honestly, I've been puzzled about your absence. I felt compelled to know the reason, so I'm calling you even though we're still on our honeymoon." Anxiety and suspicion were evident in his voice. I carefully chose my words as I responded. "It's because Christina was concerned about you and your parents knowing I'm a waitress. She was probably worried about how you might perceive that, especially since she wasn't aware that we're friends." After a moment of silence, Wesley replied, somewhat shocked, "I can't believe Christina would think that way." He calmly accepted the truth as it dawned on him during their honeymoon. Leading him to make a decisive and dramatic choice, he declared his intention to divorce Christina. When Christina returned from the honeymoon, she went to her old house only to discover a for sale sign planted in the front yard. Frantically, she called me. "What's going on? Why is the house being sold?" I responded calmly after taking a brief moment. "Our parents asked me to let you stay there, but since you got married, I assumed it was no longer necessary and decided to sell it." Christina was silent for a moment. Then her voice, trembling with emotion, revealed, "Actually, I'm getting divorced." I was taken aback and momentarily lost for words. "Divorce? But weren't you just on your honeymoon?" As I spoke, the memory of Wesley's unexpected call during their honeymoon resurfaced in my mind. "You're to blame for my divorce." Christina's accusation shook me deeply. I found myself speechless, feeling the sting of her words deeply. "Wesley discovered that you weren't invited to the wedding because I didn't want him to find out you're a waitress. You must have told him everything, didn't you?" As Christina's anger was directed fiercely at me, I stood silently, overwhelmed by the situation. "It's all your fault," I managed to reply with a trembling voice. "Christina, I never intended to hurt you, but when Wesley asked, I couldn't lie. I never imagined he would decide to divorce you." Christina interrupted me, shouting, "Don't make excuses. You need to take responsibility." With that, the call ended. A few days later, I saw our parents' names flash on my phone screen and sighed loudly, bracing myself for another unpleasant conversation. As soon as I answered, my mother's cold voice came through, laden with disappointment. "It's truly unfortunate what happened to Christina. You instigated this by telling Wesley, didn't you? What a terrible sister you are." My father chimed in, echoing her sentiments. "You always do this. You never think about the family. What were you hoping to achieve by hurting Christina?" The accusation made my blood boil with anger. I retorted sharply, "You're never going to believe me anyway. You act as if I'm entirely to blame for Christina's hurt, but you understand nothing at all." After a brief silence, my mother sighed. "You really lack compassion for your family." I couldn't help but respond with a cold, bitter laugh. "Me? Lacking compassion? Are you implying that you have ever shown any compassion towards me?" Silence fell on the other end of the line before I continued in a frosty tone. "We're not even a family. I don't care what happens to Christina anymore." With those final words, I hung up the phone, resolute in my decision to no longer involve myself with Christina. However, Christina didn't cease her efforts to target me. She began to denounce me on social media, posting daily claims that my divorce is all because of my sister, directly blaming me for the collapse of her marriage. Her posts escalated each day, turning into attacks not just on me but also on our family and friends. One day at work, Christina burst into the store where I was working at. Upon spotting me, she immediately raised her voice, startling everyone around. "You've ruined my life." As she stormed towards me, yelling, my coworkers watched in shock. Ignoring the bystanders, Christina pointed accusingly at me and shouted, "You caused my divorce by telling Wesley." Her voice reverberated throughout the store. Struggling to maintain my composure, I attempted to calm the situation. "Christina, please stop this here." But her anger was unrelenting, and she continued to loudly berate me, causing discomfort among the customers. Christina's behavior had spiraled completely out of control, forcing me to call security to handle the escalating situation. On another occasion, she barged into my home, shoving me aside and beginning to smash items inside. I quickly grabbed my cell phone and recorded her aggressive behavior. Christina's harassment persisted. She filled my mailbox with threatening letters and vandalized my door with horrible graffiti. Each morning, I was greeted with hateful words like traitor and worst sister scrawled across my door. The intensity of the messages in the letters escalated, with phrases like "You've caused me to lose everything," and "I will never forgive you." Initially, I tried to dismiss her actions, but as neighbors began to express their concern, asking, "Have you seen the woman causing a scene outside your house? Are you okay?" the situation started to take a significant mental toll on me. I never anticipated Christina's obsession would reach such an extreme. Reaching my breaking point, I consulted with Arthur and decided to take legal action. We spoke with a lawyer and filed a lawsuit to stop her behavior, which was clearly identified as violent harassment and stalking. The evidence I had collected was compelling, clearly documenting Christina's series of harassing actions against me. After several months, the court issued its verdict. Christina received a suspended sentence of 1 year with mandatory counseling, and a restraining order was issued to prevent her from approaching me again, providing me with legal protection from further harassment. This verdict brought a significant sense of relief, as it finally restored some peace to my life. Nevertheless, Christina's actions didn't cease there. She filed a civil lawsuit against me, seeking damages under the pretext that I had caused her harm. I consulted with my lawyer again and decided to propose a settlement to avoid a prolonged court battle. Eventually, Christina reluctantly agreed to settle after our parents persuaded her, arguing, "Making a bigger issue out of this serves no purpose. It's better for you to step back now." Christina remained dissatisfied to the end, muttering resentfully, "It's all her fault." After the settlement, now legally protected, I gradually began to reclaim a sense of normalcy in my life. Whenever I felt anxious, Arthur was there to provide comfort and support. While the scars from the past events may never completely vanish with Arthur's steady presence, I no longer live in fear and am able to enjoy a peaceful daily life. We moved to a new city, severing ties with my family and the past, and embarked on a fresh start with Arthur. Each morning, we would sit together, sipping coffee and discussing our plans for the day. These simple, everyday routines became my greatest source of happiness. "From now on, let's walk forward together," Arthur would say, gently holding my hand. The warmth of his touch permeated through to my heart, soothing the residual pain. Although the shadows of the past lingered, I was no longer alone. With Arthur by my side, I found the courage to step into a new future. I took a deep breath and faced forward, ready to embrace whatever came our way.